Welcome to another episode of Scales Sales. Really honored to be joined by Johnathan from Kite. Johnathan, if you could give us a brief introduction to yourself and also the company you're working for.
Awesome. Yeah, thanks, Oliver. Pleasure to be here, and thanks for having me on the show. My current role here at Kite is the North American sales leader. So I lead our growth engine, which is comprised of 4 different go-to-market teams. We have an East, West, and Central group that covers large enterprise, and commercial market segments. And we also have a business development team of around 11 that support that entire geography. From a product perspective and company perspective, Kite is a cyber risk intelligence platform. So the best way for me to simplify this is we monitor your vendor relationships for cyber risk. So if you think about it, every single business that you have a relationship with, you are now susceptible to a potential breach through that third party. So they increase your threat landscape. So that's what we do. We monitor your vendor relationships as it relates to cyber risk profiling.
Yeah, definitely. And I mean, I know from personal hand that we actually had a client before they ended up getting hacked. They had a lot of our personal details and information, and then suddenly that's obviously getting passed through to us. And it was actually details about us that had been stolen. So it is a really dangerous part to be playing in, and it can be. I know when we first spoke, it's definitely a really interesting space as well. For the listeners, and what would be great is to understand how you personally go about sort of selling the unique value proposition of Kite.
Yeah, I mean, we strip away our company, our brand, our product. Those are all fantastic things. But really, where we focus on to start is identifying what are the use cases that that particular client is looking to achieve. So that's number one. Then we look at what are the existing pain or challenge that they're experiencing today with their existing process or existing setup. And then what's the impact of that pain? So what's the business impact of them having those challenges or obstacles within their organization? And then through that discovery process, we then align our value proposition to relieve that pain and to solve for that business outcome.
Yeah, definitely. Okay, cool. That's really good. It's good for the listeners to sort of get a good picture on it. And obviously, if anyone's watching or listening, then they want to reach out to you and they're bought into what you guys are doing, then obviously do so. Where I'd love to take the conversation is to delve a little bit into the recruitment aspects. So how do you personally go about making sure you've got the right team in place?
Yeah, it's tough, right? In today's market, retaining and attracting top talent is probably one of the biggest pain points we have as frontline sales leaders and as revenue leaders. It's really a combination of I'll tackle the enablement side first, right? Enabling and retaining talent. I mean, you have to continuously invest in your team to show that you're making that commitment to their growth, right? If you're not supporting them throughout that enablement journey, what reasons do they have to stick around, right? At the end of the day. So whether that's informally through one-on-ones, whether that's institutionalizing an enablement program, bringing in a platform to help support the organization, or hiring dedicated employees at your company to support that effort, you really do have to put something in place, especially in sales, right? Sales is so driven from the individual, right? They're essentially owning and operating a region for your company, and they're responsible for revenue targets, and they have essentially their own P&L. So they're the CEO of their own business. They're operating that like a micro business within the broader organization. And what resources are you able to support them with to operationalize that strategy on a day-to-day basis? And sales enablement and retention is a huge part of that. So keeping that sales professional engaged at every level through that sort of maturity program is critical. What we've done at Kite is we're a small organization in our growth phase. So we're really hitting our stride scaling across North America. And it's just not something that we can bring in-house. So we've outsourced our sales enablement to a company that specializes in this area, Sales Assembly. And what they do is they strip away all the methodologies, right? And I love this part of their value proposition. It's not MedPick, it's not Challenger, it's not Sandler, it's not Force Management, right? There's a million different sales methodologies under the sun, but they strip all of that away and they focus on the fundamental skills required for any sales role, right? So cold calling, territory management, building consensus, multi-threading, right? creating mutual action plans. Regardless of what you sell, those are fundamental skills you'll have along the way that you'll need to be successful. So we brought them in to help scale our sales enablement journey.
Yeah, definitely. And to be honest, it's quite funny you mentioned them because I actually have just filmed an episode with Matt over at Sales Assembly. Yeah, had a really great chat with him the other day, and it's going to be a really cool episode. What those guys are doing is really cool, and it is really important. And this is what I was discussing with him is actually in these startup companies, like, yes, okay, you're going to hire some really great leaders, but there is so much going on. There are so many different hats you have to wear, and there's so many different things you have to be doing that sometimes that engagement part can be neglected in some companies. So having that sort of structure, a bit of process, someone who's going to sort of support you and help with it, it can be really important in these startup environments.
Yeah, I mean, that's spot on, right? The other side of that, right, which you brought up, which is on the talent acquisition side, right? Which, I mean, there's no silver bullet. There's no secret sauce here, right? It's tough slogging to find top talent in today's market. And that almost sounds like it should be the opposite because we've had these tranches of tech layoffs, right? In cyber, in software in general. So the outsider would assume, hey, there's all these people that have been, affected by workforce reductions. Isn't there a huge pool of talent to go after? And in theory, yes, but in reality, they're very tough to find. It's a highly competitive market with lots of other SaaS companies like Kite that are looking to actually continue to grow and continue to hire. Our methodology here was capital efficient growth. So we never were impacted by a workforce reduction because we only grew where the market could support that growth. So using tools like Sixth Sense, using intelligence tools and data tools that tell us where we're growing at the fastest rate, and then deploying additional resources specifically and tactically within that specific geo to support that growth is really what's helped us defer from layoffs at the end of the day. But in terms of vetting out that good talent, like even at the SDR level, I meet every single person that is going to be joining my sales organization multiple times throughout the interview process. And some of our secret sauce is assigning homework, right, as part of that journey. So I want to see your copy skills. I want to see how you think about strategy. I want to test your curiosity and your problem solving skills, right? From a high level, that's what you are as a sales professional, right? You're a problem solver and you have to innately be curious about your customer, about their pains, about what they're trying to do, and how we can match what we do and how we solve problems to the customer's need. So it's a tough process for sure.
Yeah, definitely. And to be honest, you touched on it there, being curious. It actually, one of our guys that works for us, he's got it tattooed here saying "Stay curious," but he absolutely loves it. But it is super important. It's something that we actually try to train with our staff when they first start in sales or recruitment. Is just there's always one. If you have the mentality of there's always one more question you could ask, that you always think that someone's going to get annoyed, but the more information you have, the easier the sell becomes, and you can just obviously use that information at whatever stage in the process. But obviously, never leave a call with feeling that you haven't asked as many questions as you could. And that's just part of being curious and hopefully teaching that mindset of being able to ask those questions.
You're never going to cover all the bases, but the way that you ask questions, the content of your questions, and the tonality says a lot about what you know about the problems that your customers are facing. You're inherently building credibility through your intentional line of questioning. Right? Like that's very, very important to understand. It's like you don't have to come to the call and offer up all this information and think, okay, that's how I build credibility, right? Your customers and prospects are listening to the types of questions you're asking and why you're asking them. That builds more credibility out of the gate on discovery calls than showing up with a slide deck.
Yeah, I love that. And instantly, I mean, those sort of questions, the correct tonality, well, stems back down to rapport. So if you've been able to build that rapport with the individual, I'm a big believer, and it pees quite a few people off on LinkedIn when I say about it, that people do buy from people. Even though people like to go away from it, you do. Like as much as like, especially for a recruiter, if the person doesn't like me, which they don't normally do, which is quite nice, but they probably won't buy from me. They'll just be like, look, I don't know who you are. Because most of the time, if you think about it, when it's a cold call, They don't know who you are. They're going off the first 10 seconds, 15 seconds. Okay, is this person credible? Is this person going to annoy the shit out of me?
Yeah.
Well, okay, no. All right, maybe I'll hear a little bit more what they're saying. And it's as you said, it comes down to the questions you're asking. Are you interrogating them, or are you actually getting to know them, find out their issues? How are you going to help them? What's the benefit to them at the end of the day? Especially in this current market in 2023, that is crucial. And that's why there's a lot of people I know that have left sales because last year was great. There was a lot of business, especially in recruitment. This year, a lot harder. People are like, okay, cool. I can't actually ask good questions.
Well, I mean, to your point, Oliver, right? The differences in products out there can be razor thin, right? Product, brand, price, those are all things relatively out of a sales professional's control, right? Those are determined at the company level. Those are determined by the market, right? The market determines price. So, what do you have control over as a sales professional, right? You have control over the sales experience that you deliver every single day through every channel of interaction with that particular prospect, whether it's email, phone, LinkedIn, Zoom call, in person, whatever it is. You actually have full control over that. And it's been studied to death over the last 5 or 6 years. What has the largest weighting in a customer's mind as it relates to product, brand, price, sales experience? What has the largest weighting, whether the customer admits it or not? It's sales experience, right? So 52% of their weighted decision is actually based on the sales experience. So, as sales professionals, we have full control over that one factor that has the largest weighting in our customer's mind. And that's delivering that excellent experience, that seamless, frictionless experience to buy from your organization every day.
Yeah, for sure. And you know what? This is why I love the recruitment industry so much because we don't really have a product. Every recruiter's going to say, I've got this amazing account executive. Oh, he's incredible. He's hit quota for the last 15 years, president club, whatever it be. Like everyone can say that. So we don't really have a product, but what you have is yourself and how you sell and what people buy in from you. And that is generally down to a T. If you look at someone that maybe has got 10, I mean, if someone lasts 10 years in recruitment, I take my hat off to them and it's impressive they last that long. But it just doesn't happen. The amount of people I know that have done 10 years worth of recruitment is crazy. I could probably count them on my hand. But it's down to you're buying from the person. I mean, at the end of the day, the product. And it takes me back to actually something I talked about yesterday with somebody on a podcast, that when actually looking for your next job, rather than sort of going, okay, this product's similar, I've sold this before, it's actually looking at the leader. Okay, who's going to make me a better salesperson? Who's going to train me to get to where I need to be? Because if it's this minimal, the product, the changes, the only person that's going to make you better is generally your leader, the person you're working beneath. And if he's been successful or she's been successful somewhere else, bet my bottom dollar that they're going to be successful in the next place they go to. So that should be the first thing you look for.
I would definitely agree with that, followed by a close second, which is the team that you're joining. So the leader, great. What's an indication of a great leader? How can you actually get a pulse on who they're like, what they're going to do for you, how they're going to support you? It's hard to get that directly with that individual leader. Okay, that's great. How do you audit that as a sales professional? Well, meet with the AEs of part of their team and go through that process of, hey, what's it like working for this person? Tell me about what the operating rhythm is on a daily basis. What tools do you use for collaboration? How many of you guys get involved in the sales process, right? In selling successfully to your clients? And that will tell you a ton on the team's culture and what you're joining and what you can anticipate in terms of the type of environment that you're going to be working within. Is checking in with the successful sales professionals that are already on that team, right? And a good leader, a good sales leader leads from the field, in my opinion, right? We can change that, right? I'm leading the North American sales org, so I'm second line leadership. I still strive to spend anywhere between 65 and 75% of my time in sales calls with the team, right? Doing the work in the trenches with them, working with clients directly, because, really that does two things. Number one, I'm in it with them. So we're working together on closing these deals, which builds credibility, builds leadership. It helps you identify areas of improvement because you're living and breathing those deals day in and day out. So you can coach your team much more effectively, and you're leading from the front, right? It's like, I'm not above making calls. I'm not above sending out cold emails. I'm not above sending out cold LinkedIn invites, at the end of the day, right? And no one should be, right? That, revenue generation, pipeline generation, that's a team sport. That's everyone in the company's responsibility. Not everyone's incentivized to do so, but when you're working with in these smaller organizations, if you have that opportunity to build a culture around everyone's responsible for revenue generation, it has a tremendous impact on the success of your organization overall, because everyone's pulling from the same line. So you can vet all that out by meeting the troops, meeting the guys, boots on the ground, the SDRs, the AEs, and fleshing that out through the interview process.
Yeah, definitely. And look, you're going to get the most honest opinion if you talk to a leader wants you to work for him. If you go and speak to an account executive within the company, the likelihood is you're going to get an honest answer. If you're potentially going to be stepping on their territory or whatever it be, they're probably going to try and push you out the door. But actually, that should make you, in a sense, maybe want to work there more, or you see that the hunger, you see the results, or whatever it be. But you are right that everyone is generating revenue. If you're the founder, co-founder, and they're chatting to their mates, they're chatting to people that are within the industry, they're still driving revenue. Yes, there's another benefit, their company, but it's just in a different way of them not just going about cold calling. It's just speaking at a dinner table or a business meeting, whatever it be. It's a constant thing, and it should be. And I think that's what I love about the startup culture, is that I come from a slightly bigger corporate company compared to this one. And just the fast pace, everyone's involved. Our founder does pretty much all of our lead generation for us, which is great. Just because that's what he loves. He loves tools. He loves leads. Just that side of things, it's just great. So he'll just spend all day doing that, which is fun, because then I get to do what I like doing, which is talking to people and doing meetings and finding candidates on LinkedIn, which is great. But there was one thing that I loved about what you said, and about obviously you working with your team and obviously going to the field, is actually, I'm a big believer, and it's how I learn by watching, seeing, being involved, or a hands-on approach. And most salespeople, just because a lot of people come from like a sporting background or something like that, they learn by watching, they learn by seeing. And actually, there's something I did when I first started in my career, was I picked the best person in the room, watched what they did, and just copied everything they did, because they didn't have a clue what I was doing.
Of course.
The same, peer learning is huge, and it's something I believe in. And I think very early on in your career, if you are working remote and you're stuck away and you're not seeing many people or learning from each other, that is not the culture you want to be in my opinion.
It's tough to establish and easy to erode, which is that culture of collaboration. And we've, Black Kite's really fostered this incredible culture of absolute transparency and collaboration and sharing. And like, we have account executives that have been successful in a particular vertical, jumping on calls with prospects in a totally different region just to support their fellow AE. And there's no asking for commission or a cut of this or a cut of that. It's strictly to improve our win rates across the board for everyone. And as my boss would always say, a rising tide raises all ships, right? So as there may be a situation where our top performing AE is having a down quarter, but he's helped and supported his fellow AEs who are now seeing success in that particular quarter, creating air cover for him to then focus on pipeline, right? So it's really about that collaboration, that team sharing, and helping each other out. And it has to happen from both sides. And what I mean by that, it has to be top down from the executive team. The executive team has to foster and create those from the ground up, from the BDRs, the SDRs, the AEs, and they have to offer up opportunities for collaboration and sharing. And one way we did that was we do game tape review as a team. So we'll have a call that's been nominated through one of our call recording softwares, and everyone will watch it. And then we'll get together as an entire sales organization, and we'll break it down like a game tape, like we would do on Sundays as a football team, right? And hey, what was the play that was called here? What was the question? What could have been the second or third level question that they didn't ask? What are the blind spots? What should they have done? What did we do really well that we should repeat next time? So we do that full, complete game tape breakdown as a group. And as sort of the mediator or moderator of that session, I'll make sure to call out our different team members to comment on different parts of that review to invite them into the conversation and encourage that collaboration.
Definitely. No, I think it's such a great approach. And I mean, we used to do it in the sense of all our calls were recorded when we were doing cold calls. So you'd strip off, I would, well, or me or my manager would pick which one they want to go for randomly. And it's great. It's like, and then you'd bring in like 5 or 6 people. And I love it mainly because of the different perspectives you get. Like I can sit there and criticize myself all day quite happily. And I can also pick out the good bits, bad bit. But then hearing, I would have done it this way, Ollie. Have you thought about this? I was like, actually, no, I haven't. And that would have been so much more effective. And it's just great. I think it's probably one of the best ways to learn that I actually did it this week with, in our company, there's only 3 of us. So the guy that I'm in the office with, I just saw was like, strip that call off, let's go through it. And actually he was like, crap, I actually have missed this, questioning. I was like, mainly what the issue was just a very negative tone, which he didn't pick up on. He wasn't hearing himself. There was nothing, he wasn't picking the candidate up to sort of sell them the job or anything like that. And I was like, if we hadn't listened back, he wouldn't have understood what I was saying. So it's such a powerful tool.
That's the unearthed gold. Like that stuff is invaluable, right? Every sales professional comes from a different background, has different experiences, have a different style and approach to calls. And you're never going to have that insight injected into the rest of your org unless you offer up these opportunities to collaborate as a group. And I think you were spot on there. Like the review that you just had brought new insights into how you should have run those calls, and would have never happened if you didn't open up that forum to break down the call and have that game tape review. These recording softwares are amazing, right? You got Gong, Chorus, Copilot, whatever it is. But there was a downside that we uncovered like within the last 60 days, which is they actually make you lazy. They're recording your calls, they're giving you your notes, they're giving you your next steps, your action items, and you actually don't watch the recording because you have it all just served up to you nicely. So what we uncovered was we would go back and watch the recording, and the notes were great, but they were not surfacing up the tonality of the call and the small nuances that you see when you watch the game tape. What's your customer's expression? How engaged are they? What's their body language? And how did the call actually go? So we made it a concerted effort to say, okay, every sales team review a call a week and then nominate a call for the month to review as an entire organization. So that was the new process we implemented to sort of fight that technology laziness when the process is just getting more automated by the day. Right. I mean, next thing you know, these call recordings are just going to insert the updates right into Salesforce, and we won't even have to do anything. I know it's coming.
And you know what? We actually have a software that does it for us.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. So I mean, we don't use Salesforce, but you can link it with Salesforce. But then we use a tool called Salesfinity. So it's a parallel dialer. It does I think you can do 10 calls at once. So you can do something like 500 dial outs in the space of like 45 minutes. Crazy tool. So it uses AI, writes you all the notes. It will then formate an email for you based on those notes and which tonality you want the email to be written in. Then it will send the email for you automatically as long as you input the email. Then all the notes that it took for you will put into the whatever outreach CRM that you use. However, also, it has a sales coach. So the coach then gives you a score rate on the call of tonality, and everything that you said, it tells you why this was good, why this was bad, and what rating you got. And then for the hour, then comes back at the end, gives you a report on the hour worth of cold calling. I was like, this is mental. Like, even though so Europe cold calling is great. America cold calling, you're lucky if someone picks up.
Yeah,
that's been the biggest difference for me. I used to ring into the Netherlands and Germany. I think they're just really inquisitive people, and they're like, hello. Like you're like, cool, great, everyone picks up. Americans, very hard. So hence why we got the parallel dialer, because stuff am I dialing 300 times a day while filming podcasts, to be honest with you. They're gone those days. But yeah, so I mean, where I'd like to sort of take the conversation is I'd like to get an understanding of a little bit about your journey. So is there anything that sort of shaped your style as a leader, like an experience?
I mean, starting from the field, right? When I started in sales, I started at Xerox, and right out of university, 100% commission. So you only eat what you kill. And there was no BDR role. There was no CRM. I mean, we had Siebel, but no one used it, right? So, day one, you're given a binder printed out on paper of all the accounts in your territory, and including existing customers. And it was organized by postal code, right? And we did all our cold calling in person. So we would be out of the office at 9 o'clock, back at 4. And those were customer facing hours. So you weren't allowed to work on emails, proposals, pricing, or do anything like that within the hours of roughly 9 to 4 p.m. because those were customer facing hours. So you'd go out, cold call in person, collect business cards, go door knocking. And, I covered the financial sector in downtown Toronto, focused on SMB. But, that really laid the foundation of how I would then operationalize my strategy as a sales professional for all the individual contributor roles that I held for the first 7 or 8 years of my career. So building those foundational skill sets and in that discipline, when you wake up in the morning, it doesn't matter how you're feeling or what you want to do. You're following a very structured process from start to finish, Monday to Friday. And that structured process has 2 goals. Number one, build as much pipeline as you can, and number 2, close as much revenue as you can. And then you kind of work back from those two macro goals. But that really led the development of my sales methodology, my leadership philosophy, which is leading from the front, leading from the field, spending the majority of my time in sales calls with the team, and still picking up the phone and sending emails to book meetings, right? You want to stay sharp on that front.
Yeah, definitely. No, I love that. And to be honest, I was having this conversation the other day about people that have worked when they've had 100% commission. They're generally the better salespeople. You're thrown in the deep end. You're having to put the bread on the table. You've got to do deals, and there is no other option. So, no, I think it does teach you a great lesson, and it's whether like we have it in the UK. If you work in like the hospitality industry, generally, if someone's done that, I'm like, okay, cool. If they've done it for a period of time, they've got work ethic. They're not afraid of being in there from 6 till midnight, 6 till 1, and they're happy to do it. So that's always a tell for me.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many other benefits to keeping your finger on the pulse of the market, right? When you're talking to customers every day, you pick up on these trends that are emerging through those discussions. When I joined Black Kite, I told my boss, I'm like, look, I'm going to put my head down and I'm just going to attend as many sales calls as possible. And after the first 3 months, I popped my head up and said, okay, I've been on 120 sales calls. I think I have a better understanding of where the business is going, where we need help, how we need to improve our sales process, how to reduce friction for the customer, how to improve our buyer's journey, and so on and so forth. But that intelligence is all gathered at the ground level, right? It's the ground truth. But more importantly, you can pick up on these trends coming from your clients around what they want to see out of the product, right? Gaps in the product, gaps in the process, gaps in the value. And then you can feed that directly to marketing and product development so that you can chart a path for the development of your tool and chart a path for innovation. Because the product team and the marketing group, they have their intel gathering as well, obviously, but they're not necessarily customer facing or interacting with the customer at the cadence or frequency that the sales team is. So feeding that insight in real time back to those different teams is an incredibly powerful mechanism and feedback loop.
Yeah, definitely. And do you know what? It's something that I wish that I had in my first role was that as they got more senior in the company, the managers got less and less hands-on and less involved in actually listening to the calls and hearing what's said. Because there's a lot of times address an issue and say, look, this is the issue we're finding with our contract or with what X, Y, and Z. And it's like, Ollie, you don't know what you're talking about. I've got 12 years of experience. You've got 8 months. I'm like, but I'm the one doing 150 dial outs a day. I'm the one doing all of these meetings, speaking to them, actually getting the information. So it was actually something that I did very similar to yourself was whenever I've been in a manager position, hence in this company, or as I got more senior in that company, I was like, I want to be on every meeting. I want to hear everything. Because one thing that I'm really good at, and it's really bad, is that when I get blindsided blinkers like this. It's like, I've got to close. It's like, I'm going to get this deal. That's forgetting all of the other stimuli that's coming in. And then when I was sat on the other side, and I'm like, okay, cool. They can do whatever they want. I'm going to listen for actually what the real issue is here, or try and get to the understanding of it and actually open the mind to it. I had literally a pair of eyes on the top of my screen for about 9 months. Just be like, open your eyes. Worked magic. And as soon as I did it, my calls went through the roof, the understanding, the close rate went up. It is super important to be involved in those things.
I love those little visual cues and reminders that you can trigger your mind to remember. It's like, hey, let's remember, take the blinders off, keep an open mind, open your eyes. I love stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, it makes it so much easier because I literally am so, when I'm on a call, it's like there could be people screaming at me, or if I'm watching TV, people could be screaming at me. I wouldn't have a frigging clue what's going on. I think it's like, I'm not a great multitasker. I can do all the like looking at the screen, doing my work while on the calls, but yeah, it's not my forte, to be honest.
The science tells us technically we can't multitask. So whether we believe we can or not,
Yeah,
you're right. Right.
definitely. What I'd like to get your perspective on is obviously we talked about getting the right teams in place, retaining these guys and girls. How do you go about identifying future leaders within your team?
Yeah, again, another challenge, but I think it's you can cover your base there by giving opportunities for people to step up, right? And something I spoke about earlier is this game tape review, right? We're like, hey, we're all going to watch this together. And you always start unprompted. Who wants to talk about this specific segment and offer up their insight? And naturally opening the form and giving your team members the opportunity to step up and lead from the front and provide their insight, provide their review of certain situations, that's a very easy way to do it, right? The other is a more sort of direct approach, right? So we have all these tools that are tracking productivity levels, output levels, success levels, and just look at who is consistently not only performing month over month or quarter over quarter, but are they performing in a way that you believe is in line with the cultural expectations of the company, or that you believe is the right way to succeed, right? Let me just define that further. The wrong way to succeed is to win deals at all costs, right? And to undercut the price to the point where you're losing pricing integrity, or to lose money on deals, right? And those strategies are all being used by software providers and vendors across the globe, right? But looking at your top performers and making sure they're winning in the right way, right? And they're showing some of those leadership qualities, but they're showing consistency over time. Then following up with those individuals one-on-one and challenging them to take the next step forward, because they may be a little bit timid, they may be a little bit pulled back, they just want to do their job, they want to continue to be successful in their role, but pushing them a little bit to take that next step and see, like, what's holding you back, and treat it like a discovery call. What are your objections to moving on to the next level, to managing the larger accounts, to starting up a new territory for us from scratch? Like, so treating that like you would any prospect, flushing out what their objections are, and then working through those objections, right? One-on-one, and be like, okay, you're worried about you're worried about the brand awareness in that new territory. What if we had marketing take the list of accounts and warm up that market for 2 to 3 months ahead of time before we deploy you as a resource? Or I'm worried about the defined account list. It's like, okay, well, what if you had influence over which accounts you covered? And what if you built the territory in terms of the accounts you would be assigned, right? So just handling those up front like you would with any client interaction, I think that's the way to go, right? Give people opportunity, diagnose their objections, and foster a team environment for collaboration to help you identify those future leaders.
Yeah, definitely. And it's actually something that I spoke about the other day, because a lot of people that we've spoken to have actually forgotten about doing one-to-ones with their staff. They've got very much not really involved in what's going on. And actually the reason why they lose a lot of their staff is because they're not understanding of, okay, what does this person want? How am I going to be part of their journey to get them where they want to be? Because it's easy enough as a leader to sit here and go, yeah, this person wants to be this person wants to be that, and presuming and being presumptuous of something. But unless you actually get down to the nitty gritty, you will end up losing stuff without knowing that. Because some people, you might try and push them down the route of leadership, but they really don't want to. All they want to do is earn loads of money, and they just want to be the top earner for the whole company, earn $1 million or whatever. But you have to get down to the nitty gritty with people.
Yeah, I mean, you have to humanize it. Like, look, we're in sales, we're numbers driven, we're performance driven. Working in sales is like walking around naked. Everyone knows what you're working with and how you're performing. That's just how it is. So it's very unique. But that can make people feel unique emotions. Let me just put it that way, right? But humanizing it and, like you said, maintaining the one-on-ones and asking them, like, hey, why are you here? What do you want to accomplish? What do you want to do in the next 18 to 24 months on a personal level? Never mind professional. Obviously, it's easy to say, I want to be over quota, I want to go to Press Club. You strip all that away. What are you working on personally? And flushing that out and bringing in that humanized approach goes a long way with most people.
Definitely. No, I can agree more. So for the last little bit of the podcast, would love to delve into a bit about work-life balance. So
Sure.
sales obviously can be a really hard topic, hard for people to, but is there anything that you've sort of implemented to find a bit more balance in your life?
That's a tough one. Sales has this aspect to it where there is no 9 to 5, right? You're thinking about your deals, you're thinking about your clients, you're thinking about challenges you're having when you put your head on the pillow, when you wake up in the morning, when you're in the shower, when you're spending time with your kids, when you're working out. So, like, technically, that's all working. You're working your brains on and you're trying to solve those challenges mentally, internally, before you actually externalize anything with clients or your leadership team or your management. You're always on the clock. So, how have I tried to maintain sanity throughout that, whole process? I would equate work-life balance to like maintaining sanity is bringing it back to a defined routine. So then you're taking the small decisions throughout the day that have very low importance and you're trying to automate those as much as possible and maintaining your decision making resources, right? Your mental capacity to make good decisions on the stuff that's going to have the greatest impact on your success. So I have a uniform that I put on every morning, even though we're remote. It's a dress shirt with dress pants, so I only have a few options, right? So I get up first thing in the morning, I go through my routine at 5:30 a.m. Cold showers, Wim Hof method, that's my mantra. I fast all in the morning, so black coffee, get my workout in, wake up my daughter, feed her breakfast, send her off to daycare, come back, and I dive right into my day at around 7:30 a.m. But maintaining that routine stops me from hitting the decision fatigue wall, right? We have a finite amount of ability to make decisions throughout the day. And we don't realize that. It's like we don't have an unlimited capacity to make decisions, right? So finding that ceiling for yourself and then working to automate the stuff that is less valuable or of low strategic value, that will just improve your overall mental state because you won't feel like you're bombarded with making all these small decisions that are having minimal impact on your life. So automation and routine are the two things that help me maintain a very, I wouldn't say balanced lifestyle, but maintain my sanity for the most part.
Yeah, definitely. And do you know what? Well, we filmed around 40 episodes now, and you're the first person who said about limiting the decision making. And it's exactly what I would have said for the answer because it's something that I do in my life. Like I pay for all my meals to be prepped. I have
Yep.
the same breakfast. I have basically a meal replacement for my breakfast in a shake. So everything's all done. Food, there is no decisions made for me. I just put it in my bag, off I go and do whatever in my day. And then my morning routine, exactly the same. All my face creams go on the same. I shower first, brush my teeth. Whatever it be, where there's a
Yep.
routine possible, I have it. And like one of my mates who I live with, he also works with me. He found it really funny when he first started. He was like, "You could do everything exactly the same in the morning." I'm like, but I don't have to think. I'm in autopilot mode. Like when I'm in the shower, I'm thinking about work. Like
Yep.
as soon as I wake up, I am on work, and one of my biggest issues is that I just don't know when to switch off. And we're getting there, we're learning. But like it's also, but like if I can limit those things, it clears up my head, and I can actually just focus on work. And that we've actually, me and my girlfriend have brought in a new thing that we'll meet each other when we finish work. We do the same hours. For the first like 30 minutes from when we see each other, we call it a decompress 30 minutes. We both like, if we have a decision to make, oh my God, because we just finished work, we cannot make any decisions.
No.
It's like, we'll stand there. So we now just basically try not to talk for half an hour before we see each other, just to decompress. And it is wonderful. Mainly because I don't have to talk, but like, it just allows you to then, okay, cool, brush away what the day has been, and then you can relax, and then you're like, okay, cool, let's go and do this, let's do this. Like, but yeah, I love that. I'm glad someone said it finally because it It's something I do.
So I'm going to adopt that decompress 30 minutes. I love that idea. I think it's fantastic. We have like no phone policy from 5 to 7 p.m., but I think the decompress thing is big. Allow your mind to reset. Like how many times have we got together with our partner at the end of the day and go like, what do we want to have for dinner? And like you sit there for an hour, like, you know what? I don't effing know what I want for dinner. Just make a damn choice. You know, like it
Yeah.
leads to that level of aggressiveness because you're both just tanks are empty. You can't make any more decisions. And that's because of this decision fatigue that's happened throughout the day. So I love the mental reset that you just highlighted, but I'm also going to hit you up for that skincare routine because you're just glowing orange right now. And I need to know.
Yeah, I think I'm using like 5 different products every night and morning. So like I'll send them across to vitamin C. That's the trick. That's the one that's doing it. But yeah, and also
My mom.
yeah, basically. Well, I think it was probably my mum that probably told me to get it, to be honest. But yeah, and a good ring light. That's what's doing it as well. It's got a nice little tinge to it. But no, but look, Johnathan, thank you so much for your time and sharing your knowledge and wisdom, and obviously information about Black Kite as well. Couldn't thank you enough.
Well, enjoy the conversation, Oliver. Thanks for having me on the show.
No problem. Thank you.